Noel Imperato is a Franco-American artist, writer, and meditation facilitator based in Baltimore. For over 20 years, she has developed and led Painting for Life, a workshop rooted in intuitive painting, presence, and deep listening. She holds a PhD in mythology with an emphasis on depth psychology, studied at the Beaux Arts in France, and she has maintained a long-standing meditation practice with teachers including Shinsen Young, Sharon Salzberg, and Joseph Goldstein. She is the creator of the 6-week online course, Do Your Own Red Book, and is currently writing a 2-volume work, Painted Memoir, the Guidebook, exploring the dialogue between image and word as a path of individuation and self-transformation. Her work bridges art, depth, psychology, and contemplative practice. And we are so happy she's back with us again.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. I'm very honored to be asked to speak again. And so today the title of the talk is Working with the Image, a Deeper Exploration of Inner Guidance. So last time I spoke about the 3 doorways into the sacred, which were image, word, and relational field. So today I'm going to talk about the image itself, go a little deeper into what actually happens when we begin to relate to the image. And not as an image that we create per se, but as an image that meets us. So because what I've discovered over time is that these images are not illustration. We don't start knowing what we are doing. They come to express something that we don't know, or at least that's still unconscious. And then by painting them, then the unconscious can meet the consciousness. So the basic ground of this type of approach to painting is that the image is not an illustration of the psyche, but a living doorway into a relationship with the psyche. All right, so I'm going to share today mostly 3 paintings that will exemplify what I mean exactly by what we can do with the image, at least in my personal experience. So let me start with one. Be ready, because that one is a little maybe shocking, but you will tell me afterwards. Let me share. So this is the painting that I actually did for the first week at SLN when I started discovering the painting for intuitive painting. And what happened is that at the time, and this is quite a back in time when I did this, I was still very angry at my mother. So I started painting this sort of a grotesque portrait of my mother and my father doing my own creation, you might say. So I was sort of remembering the World War II, which I was born underneath the Nazi bombing. And I was reflecting on all these family stories. And I was kind of coming to a place where the whole page was so full, I just decided that it was finished. So I told my teacher, Michelle Cassou, I'm finished. And she said, how do you know you are finished? Are you finished because you are afraid of ruining the painting? Or are you finished because you are afraid of bringing the light into dark? Because with intuitive painting, the finishing time is sort of important. Quite often, the most amazing insights happen when we go through that little barrier where we feel, okay, I'm finished. And Michelle pushed me to go further. So I was there, she was the teacher, so I surrendered basically. And I didn't know what else to do. So I started painting these little flowers here, which were sort of on the coat of the mother. And for 20 minutes, I find myself sort of engulfed into painting, really tiny little flowers that made me really kind of change completely my attitude from all of the sudden. Instead of feeling angry, I just started feeling like a state of grace. And like there were like warm silk dribbling down my spine. And what I was basically doing was that uh, just with those little flowers and pushing through the resistance, I had transformed these dark mother, you might say, into a good mother, at least in my mind, because then the flower sort of became the coat of a Madonna. And then, right there and then, I fell in love with painting, intuitive painting, because I figured, this is so amazing. How could I not continue to do and to practice this painting? So I came home and I just basically started doing a lot more painting of that nature. So this was the first example that I wanted to give to sort of give you the sense that an image can actually create a transformation as you are painting during the same time as you are painting. But then what I discovered is that the image can also sort of keep functioning after the painting, way after the painting. And here I'm going to share a second painting that will give you that sense of how something can really work even years after you have painted something. So here I'm going to share this second painting. So this one is called Love Taboo. And what it represents is basically my grandmother here holding her son too tight. As you can tell, the blue hands with nails like claws are kind of the devouring mother hands. And and that tells you a little bit about the relationship between my grandmother and her son, who is the brother of my mother, here represented at the bottom corner, holding this big red heart with a cross, black cross actually, a do not enter sign. So what happened is when I was doing this painting, assistant teacher, this was no longer with Michel Cassou, but with somebody else in that same kind of lineage. And the assistant came by, and I was really sort of immersed in doing my painting, really in the flow. And she just asked me, where is the monster? And I didn't really understand what she meant by the monster. And so I sort of reacted bluntly and I started creating a monster on my painting, which unfortunately I don't have a picture of that stage of the painting. But basically, you can imagine I had sort of made big claws in the face here of the mother and destroyed the painting basically by clawing the figures that I had painted. And then it didn't really feel right on the moment. I became angry, and the more the assistant came by, she scolded me because I was angry, which made me even more angry. And it just turned the painting into something that I just didn't know what to do with it anymore. And then, like maybe 10 years later, or a number of years later, I just looked at the painting again and it felt like, oh no, this is really not right. And I did what Michelle Cassou originally tells all her students: you don't erase anything in this intuitive painting approach. You just trust that whatever comes up is part of the unconscious trying to come up and resurface. But in this case, because I had done something that was not really coming from me, I just decided I'm going to erase all these claws and monster stuff, which I did. So that's the painting as it is now. It sort of ruined a little bit the freshness of the skin of the mother and that sort of a thing. But in the process of doing that, I just felt for some reason inspired to put little touches, little white dots on the black cross over the heart. And as I was just keeping doing those white dots, they started looking like white roses. So I figured, okay, let's make them look more like white roses. So I kept them a little bit more looking like flowers. I added even a little bit of gold. And when I was done with that, I looked at the painting and then I had this big revelation. Now, my mother's lack of tenderness, you might say, that she had developed because of protecting herself against the relationship that her own mother had with her son. So instead of blaming her for that, the fact that this cross had become, they started to look now more like a funeral ribbon. And so I felt like, I shouldn't really blame her from here. I should more mourn the fact that she sort of had to protect herself in that way, and she could not really held her own children in her own hands because of the memory she had with her own mother. And so I didn't really mean to do this at all. It's just the inspiration of the painting itself that sort of brought me to that place where I was no longer blaming my mother, but I was more in compassion with her for what she herself had to go through. So this is another example of how the image sort of brings out the healing, not necessarily when you are doing it, but as you keep dialoguing with the image. And now I want to share another painting, but maybe before I keep going, I should ask, is anybody has any question about what I have said so far?
Uh,
Yeah,
I
Marie-Christine.
would I would just like to say how impactful this is for me. Um, yeah, I'm kind of blown away by the depth and the impact, and I just so appreciate your willingness to share your own personal journey in the paintings with us. Very moving and meaningful to me. Thank you so much.
Marie-Grace, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Also, I just want to say a quick word. It's fascinating to me how you can use in the process of creating. You were making discoveries. It's not just here's a feeling I have. Let's put it onto the canvas. It's in the process you are discovering things about yourself and then changing the picture to reflect that.
Yeah, the painting almost changed itself and brought it to me, the insight. So that's really the big difference with, you have a dream and then, oh, I'm going to paint my dream, but then you already have all that information in your mind. This is completely the opposite. You don't really know you are not coming to the canvas as a blank slate, obviously. Especially during those 15 years, I worked my shadow. I did a lot of shadow work. And so I had all these events that were coming back to the memory. And so when I approached the canvas, I had the memories in mind, but I didn't know what would happen with that, because my memory, for instance, with the first painting was like I was angry at my mother and I was going to, express that on the painting. And then the activity of painting itself, doing those little flower on the coat, sort of transformed my own feelings, my own emotions, and I literally became like from being angry, and really I can be very, I could be, not so much anymore, but at that time I could be very angry. And then I was just in a state of grace, just through the process, through the activity of painting. And the same with the second one. I wanted to erase the claws because I felt they didn't belong to my painting, but the ribbon, the funeral ribbon, transforming that sense that my mother, she could never hold us. She never did, she just did not touch us. And of course, that was very wounding for basically her 9 children, the same. Everyone got the same treatment. But bringing out the fact that she suffered from her own mother's relationship, that's when I made the connection, and that's when I changed from blaming her to mourning the fact that she was not able to do what a mother really ideally would do with her children. Okay, so let me share another painting here, which this one is actually more about where do the image come from. So as I mentioned here, they can come from memories of your own woundings, and you kind of process that as you are painting. Or you may have visionary experiences. So let me see here what I'm talking about. This one. So this, if you remember, I already showed it last time, but last time I just wanted to say that, there was not just darkness coming up to the canvas, but also light. And here I will explain a little bit how this painting happened and merge 3 different visionary experiences. And first, let me explain perhaps a little bit the painting, is this woman. I was doing a session where we had in mind to do a life-size self-portrait. So basically what we do when we do that is we stand in front of 3 pages of paper, like 3 poster board, the one stack onto each other. So there is 3 poster board there, which creates a rather big canvas. I had to step on a stool to be able to reach the top. And we can use any kind of a gesture with the hands and the arms. And so this one, I did this mudra gesture, and I was very empowered at that time. I did the painting when I was in Spain. So I was doing my painting workshop at that time, and in Spain, I was retired, so I was meditating like 3 hours every day, getting up at 4 in the morning. And by 7 o'clock, I felt like, okay, my day is done, at least for the meditation part. And I was really feeling strong, even though I was going through a lot of upheaval with my family in France. So I was kind of living half and half, France and Spain. And then during a little meditation, I had this vision where there was like two elements, the heart here and then the womb. So let me start with the womb. The womb actually had this experience when I was with Shinzen retreat, and I was sitting on the cushion with everybody else, and then all of a sudden I had this sense of having a orgasmic experience, you might say. You know, my whole womb sort of felt like it was an entire blown out sphere with incredible feeling of bliss and love and what have you. So when I wanted to talk about that to some of the Sangha people, they were like, well, I don't think that's what you are supposed to experience during meditation. But I didn't ask for it. It just came. So this was an image that reminded me that I can remember, you know, very strongly. And here I made this circle, like the Mu circle, the Zen circle, which is really traditionally an expression of emptiness. But here I painted it with a sense of fullness, because that's how I felt. You know, the womb was full with aliveness like I had never experienced before. And even I mentioned that to a teacher later on, who asked 40 people in his group, you know, to describe their best orgasm experience. And after everybody did their little story, he came back to me and he said, he actually looked twice. He couldn't believe it. He said, you are the only one who described the perfect orgasmic experience. So even though it was experience on the cushion, it's telling me, you know, orgasm is not just associated with sex. You can actually have a sense of orgasm just anytime, anywhere. And that's why I use this image here in the woman there. And then the heart is a little different from the regular heart, because I painted it green with ruby colored droplets all around it. And this is coming out of another vision that I had when I was meditating in Spain this time, and I was just sitting at home doing a little meditation, and then I had this vision that just came out. So let me change the painting and show you the other painting, this one. So this is the vision I had, which was just an image that came in front of my eyes, like a photo in front of my eyes. And it was half a face, half of a man, half of a woman. And as I painted it and later reflected upon it and researched it, I realized this is exactly the alchemical image of sun moon, you know, masculine, feminine energy merging as one. And at the same time, during that same meditation, I I was ready to get up when a second image came out, and that one was the image of a nearly round heart that was sort of reminding me of the stroboscopic photograph of a milk drop, that sort of falls into a liquid and just splashes into little droplet, except that this time it was not white droplet, it was red droplet. So that's why I did this heart, which was kind of a very round heart with a droplet, which is kind of a one pearl, you might say. And as I was more researching the image itself of this heart, I just realized that in in the Hindu tradition, they have the chakra not so much seven chakra one on top of each other. They have three areas, one in the womb, one in the heart, one in the head. And each one is called, the one in the heart is called the white sun. And the white sun, the heart, is where Shiva and Shakti are meeting, meaning the masculine and the feminine are meeting. And when that's happening, the heart is called the seat of the human heart, So researching the images, which when I was visualizing them, I didn't really know exactly what to make of it, but they came from my subconscious. Of course, I was studying mythology at the time, so that probably was inspiring my mental images. But researching and developing, the connections between the two images made me feel like these are not two separate images. They actually are one image, which is the heart as a center of the feminine and masculine energy becoming one. And so that's what that heart in a pillar of light represents. And then I wanted to say also, with another painting here, this one, this one is what I was talking about, the three suns, one in the head, one in the heart, and one in the womb. And this one, the one in the head, was an example that of what can happen when you are painting. When I did this painting, I did this in Baltimore actually, and I was just like feverishly painting the background, especially. This was another one of those paintings where you stand in front of three poster board. Here you can see them very clearly, the line of the poster board here. And I had so drawn my outlook, and the background I kept putting color and adding more white and putting more color, and I was just going crazy, just feverishly painting, and actually for 2 hours I was just like doing this, and it just, I was in the flow, but I was working like with what Matthew Richard, I think Richard calls the thermonuclear energy of the psyche. I was really, whoa. And so much so, I got exhausted. So I sort of went on the porch and lay down for a minute. And then all of a sudden, I just saw this bright light, very cold white light coming out of my third eye against a pitch black background, as black as the screen here, as if I was in outer space. And so it didn't last very long, very much like a second, but those kind of experience, they may be just a flash, but they are more marking than anything else you can think of. And so that basically is kind of exemplifying how the activity of painting itself, just getting into flow, exhausting yourself as you are keeping painting, 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 that can take you into a space where you have some kind of peak experiences. And so that's for me, at least I had those three kind of experience. One, you just meditate and you see something, or you can paint and you see something. And the other one was just happened when I was taking entheogenic substances experience. And so that's sort of a source of experience. And actually, I'm more interested now into going into that direction, where the activity of painting, the the setting where you try to get yourself into flow and that kind of a thing, that's going to be more my focus as I'm starting to work with Nick Shore. I think I have mentioned him last time, and he has gathered a group of 10 people, and I'm one of the 10 who are going to work for a whole year doing some painting at home and then journaling collectively together and meeting monthly together. And the whole theme is to see what is going to emerge in terms of iconic images that are relevant to the shift of our society's culture. And so that's pretty much, what I wanted to say, how the painting can have this transformative function, you might say, how it can shift you from anger to grace, how it can bring you into some peak experience, how it can reveal two images put together may just come and bring a new insight. And that's sort of what we do when we do the Painting for Life, and especially the Red Book, which I mentioned before. And then Marie Grace told me that there are a number of people who have sort of mentioned that they were possibly interested in joining the group. So I am open to create a group of 8 people maximum, with just the people from the mastery circle, so that we could experience together what happened when we have the image meets us rather than us expressing something we already know.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Noelle. And maybe we could organize that. You have 10 minutes here, and we do have a question from Ruth. Ruth.
Okay.
Noel, when you mentioned how you transformed your anger against your mother to compassion for her, did that revolutionize your whole relationship? Was that something that lasted, or was that just a temporary insight?
Well, no, that's something that lasts because, it's not an idea in my head. It was a transformative emotional bodily experience.
Sometimes I feel that we go through moments where we have an understand such a deep understanding of something, like a flash, but then it's ephemeral, and it feels to me that there's something about the act of painting which memorializes that insight rather than just experiencing it and have it evaporate. Am I correct in what
Yeah, I think you are pointing out to something really true there, because the activity itself of painting is sort of very embodied. So it's not just It is transformative, and once you have, I mean, I can talk for myself at least, but I also can say other people through the Painting for Life, people who have joined the class, regularly, they have themselves, testify that the insights and the shifts that they experience during the painting is profoundly transforming. Plus, you have the mark of the experience is still there, and you can look at your painting and keep getting that information just by resonating with the painting.
Thank you. Tim has a question.
Yes, Noel. As you were finishing up, you said you were going to be with a group of like 10 people, and then you mentioned something about the transformation of society or humanity or something. Could you elaborate on that?
Okay, so this is a group that I got connected by chance, I would say. But anyway, at the right time, I contacted Nick Shore, and he is working with a Jungian group. What is it called already? I can't remember. That amazing Jungian. I can look for it if you want and send it to you afterward. I don't have it under my hand right now. But anyway, it's a Jungian institution that is reaching out thousands, I don't know how many, but quite a large number of people. And they work with dreams in very much of a Carl Jung tradition. And then Nick Shore is an artist, and he had the idea that, well, how come they just work with dream? Why don't they work with art? So he contacted that group, and he created the Dream Studio within that bigger association. And last year it happened, that he did this, and he had one group that was actually the same kind of a thing as what I am doing, but he called it Do Your Personal Red Book. And so he was now offering these young people who are strictly working with dreams, he was offering them the idea of painting and painting your dream, or maybe painting more in the style that I was just explaining, more like a downloading of an image that comes from source, let's say, rather than just shadow work, because that's important to do, but also it's important to connect with the light. And so we haven't started yet. It's going to start July 16, and it's for 1 year, and we meet once a month. And so I don't know exactly what to say about it, but I felt it was sort of very interesting because Nick invited not just artists, but I mean, artists, yes, but not just painting. He invited people who are musicians and poets and artists, and wanted to see what would emerge in terms of iconic images. That's
Okay.
what he's looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question for Noel? We still have 5 minutes here, so yes, Lori has a question.
Yeah, no, actually, I just want to make a response that with your speaking and showing the art, I am just so moved with so much that you're saying with the words and the images, and how beautiful the threading for me is and the connection that is occurring. So I'm thanking you for this. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Laurie. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, it is a very profound experience, I have to say. I was not an artist like that before. I was throughout my life. I started, as Ruth mentioned, going to the Beaux-Arts in France because that's what my mother wanted me to do, to become an architect, but I never wanted to be an architect per se, so I just did it until I was 21, which was the adult age at the time. And so I started with that, and then I wanted to do film. So then I worked in Hollywood for 20 years as a film editor. And then the whole thing actually that I had in mind was not, to be this or to be that. I really wanted to help others to wake up to the spirit world, because I think I mentioned that before in the last time. When I was 15-year-old, I saw a documentary on Sri Aurobindo, and for whatever reason, all my sisters and brothers, they don't even remember this documentary. I mean, God, I was 15 years old. I'm now 81, so that's a pretty long time ago. But for me, it has completely given me my direction in life. And that was one quote that I kind of remember is, the destiny of man is to become divine. And being brought up into a Catholic environment where everybody was Catholic, white, and there was just no discussion about what you are supposed to believe, that came from Mars, like, what are you talking about? To man to become divine? That sounded like outrageous, because in Catholicism, God is out there somewhere on a cloud, and you are just a poor little sinner. And so the idea that we were supposed to become divine totally kind of shook me away, And when I turned 21, I spent a whole winter in my little maid bedroom in France reading the book and having a nervous breakdown, you might say. I would just roll on the floor and cry and do this kind of, you know, uh, I just couldn't believe, how am I going to get there? That was all I could think about. How am I going to get there? So because reading the book is you are supposed to become, loving and wisdom and all these things. And I just couldn't even figure out what they were to start with and how I was going to become that. So my whole adventure in life was a consequence of that quote.
Yeah, thank you, Noel. Now look, we've got a minute left and we've got three people, so maybe we'll just extend our time a little bit, squeak. But we've got Ruth, Kay, and Mary Grace, and maybe we could.
Sam, actually. Yeah.
What? I'm sorry, what?
Sam, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's Sam. I'm sorry. Okay, and then maybe they could be brief, and you could do a brief closing, and we'll do it that way. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to, maybe you could describe to us how you would do on Zoom if a group of 8 of us decided to get together and work with you. Could you describe what that would look like from a Zoom point of view?
Okay, so what I do is we come together for a half hour. If there is 8 people, we could extend that to a little longer, where everybody, I mean, I give a certain information, and then I open the space for everyone to share. And that's very important because it sort of, we resonate with each other, we create a kind of a field, and people get inspired through that activity. So we first do opening circle, as I call it. Then everybody paints at home for 1 hour. So whenever the circle ends, I give you exactly 1 hour to paint at home. And then you take a picture of that painting, you sign it and date it, take a picture, send it to me. And then we reconvene in the Zoom room for a closing circle where I will share everybody's painting, and each person will be sharing what the process was when they were painting, and we can sort of have a little feedback.
Thank you. Sam, please.
Yes, Noel, I just wanted to acknowledge um, you as a dedicated explorer of the soul. And several times, from my point of view, several times uh, while you were talking, I pictured Jung and his painting process as a way of self-discovery. And so thank you for embodying that type of work. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sam. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. Everybody, let's give Noel a great hand. Thank you so much. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. I feel honored to be doing this and for you to, and Ruth and all of you for giving me this opportunity to share what's really dear to my heart.
Thank you so much.